Hello everyone, you're welcome to Fashion and Arts Academy, the place where you'll learn the skills that would empower you for life. Today, we're going to be learning how to make flared skirts. They're also known as circular skirts. These are skirts that are cut in circles, semicircles or quarter circles. Let's go to the board and see how it looks like. Let's take a look at the board. We can see that we have three different kinds of flared skirts. Now take a look at the fully flared skirt. As you can see, it's made up of two circles. That means you can see an inner circle and an outer circle. And now what I have done is to show you that this inner circle represents the waist, which of course mathematically is called the circumference. That's what the C is for. Then the length is here. That's in between the two circles. Now the fully flared skirt is made up totally out of a full circle and having an internal circle. Now if you look at the semi-flared skirt, you can see that it's a semicircle. Obviously it is. And we have the inner semicircle here representing the waist, and of course the distance between the two semicircles will give you the length. Now the third one we have there is a quarter circle. You can see that, and it's called the quarter flared skirt, also known as the A-line skirt. Now it's not as flared as the others, obviously, and you can see that this quarter circle in here, it represents the waist, and the length is in between the two quarter circles. Now this is how they look when you project upon it aerially. That's how it looks like. That means if you open it out and lay it flat on the floor, that's how they look like. Now obviously you have to, let them drop on your body, maybe from your waist, or from the tip of your sleeve, or at the edge of your skirt, or whichever place you like to use them. Now to make our pattern, obviously we're not going to make this huge pattern of the massive skirt, but we're going to make the pattern called the arc. This is called our arc. It's called the arc pattern. And we can see that, you can see the radius here. That's just like a quarter circle. You can see the radius here. And you can see the radius. This is the middle of the circle. And this part here, which represents a quarter of the circle, is a quarter of the circumference. Now, one thing is sure, is that we know the circumference. That is already known. And there's no doubt about that. We already know our waist. We know whichever edge we're intending to join our flared skirt onto. But one thing we don't know is the radius. And that's how we're going to calculate our pattern. We have to do a little bit of calculations. Now this is not too much, but I'm sure it's something you're going to be comfortable with. It's very easy. Don't worry, it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. So we're going to see how we're going to do the calculations. So why don't we look at the measurements we will need to make our skirts. These are the measurements we're going to use to make our skirts. Now we have the waist, which is a known measurement, which is our waist. Our waist is 25 inches. That's what we're going to be using to make the skirt. Now we have three different lengths here to practice with. We have our fully flared length here. We're going to use a mini length, which is 16 inches. Then we have the semi-flared length. That's going to be quite long. We're going to use 30 inches for that. Then we also have the quarter flared that we're going to use as 24 inches. Now we have this varied length so that you can play around with it. So the first thing is that for our fully flared length, we're going to add ½ inch to the waistline and ½ inch to the hem. Now because you're going to use your industrial weaving machine to just weave it up, so that because it's a flare, you cannot sew it all around. Well, you could try to do that, but that could be tasking. So you can use your industrial weaving machine to weave it all up. So I'm going to add 1 inch to each of these lengths. That means that for the fully flared, I'll add 1 inch. That will give me 17. To the semi-flared, I'll add 1 inch. That's 31. To the quarter flared, I'll add 1 inch. That will give me 25. Like I told you, we want to work out our arc pattern. This is our arc pattern that we're trying to work out. We're trying to determine what the radius is. We don't know that. But what we surely know, we already know our waist. And of course, we definitely know that. That means that we know the 1/4. We know the quarter of that waist. This is giving me 1/4 of the circumference. Circumference. Now if I divide my waist into 4, I'll get 6 1/4. That is what this place gives me. This arc I have here, that is already known. This is going to give me 6¼ inches. That is already known, but what I don't know is my radius. Now there are two ways you can calculate that. You can use the mathematical method, and you can also use the gauging method. That's about trial and error, obviously. But we're going to take care of the mathematical method. Now the first thing we need to know is, what is the equation for finding the radius? And that's very simple. It's just the same that we use to calculate the circumference. And that will give us C equals to 2 pi r. As simple as that. Now, what we're going to do is to try and work this out as much as possible before we arrive at the answer. Now, to do this, we know that pi is 22/7. So the first thing we need to do is to try and substitute that a little. So we'll have to start with this. C equals to, let me just get this around here so that we'll know what we're doing. C now equals to 2 into bracket 22/7 times r. I'm going to open that up a little, so I'll give you C equals to 44/7r, because I just multiplied 2 times 7. That's all I have to do. And I get my 44/7, and that will multiply by r. Now, after I've done this, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to multiply both sides by 7, because I'm trying to see how I'm going to make r the subject of the formula. So that's what I'm doing that. So I'll just take my 7, I multiplied by C. I multiply C with 7, and that will give me 7 times 44/7r. In mathematics, once you have this, you know you're going to cross, 7 will cross this out. 7 will cross 7 out, so you cross those out. So when you cross that out, what you're left with is 7C equals to 44r. So you can see that we're very close to making r the subject of the formula. So I want to take this and divide both sides by 44. Very clever. That's why mathematics is very good for life. So I take that, 7C divided by 44 would give me 44/44. You can see that. Now once I've done this, what do? I just cancel 44 with 44, and then what I'm left with is r. You can see that. So now that gives me, I'll now change this to the other side, and that will be r equals to 7C/44. Easy. Now once we've done this, we already know that yes, this is r. So now I know my C. So all I have to do is substitute C with my measurement, which is 25 inches. So that will give me r equals to 7 times 25 divided by 44. Let's go back up here. That will be r equals to, if we calculate 7 times 25, you get 175. You get 175 divided by 44. Now just take a minute and try and calculate that with your calculator or with your phone. And that will give us, r will give us 3.97. You can see it's very, very close to 4. So I'm going to just approximate it to 4 inches. That will be approximated to 4. Now this is the mathematical method, and it's very accurate. So I would advise that we always use this. But I can tell you, you can actually try to do trial and error. That's a gauging method where you just try and gauge it out. You know, I'll show you that on the table so that you'll understand how to gauge. But I would rather that we use and stick to the mathematical method. So now that we have already calculated our r, this is 4 inches. So if you look at it very well, for our fully flared skirt, our radius, fully flared radius, let me put it that way, our fully flared radius is 4 inches. That's for our fully flared radius. Now for any type of skirt you're planning to make, whether it's a semi-flared or a quarter flare, we have to start by getting our fully flared radius. Because without this, we would not be able to calculate the radius for the other types of skirts. So for our semi-flared, For our semi-flared radius, what I would do is take this 4 inches I have here, and all I do is multiply it by 2. That's 4 times 2 will give me 8. That's what I'm going to use. I'm going to use 8 inches for my semi-flared radius. I'm not going to use 4 inches. Now, for my fully flared radius, I'm going to take my fabric and fold it into 4. That's lengthwise and widthwise. But for my semi-flared skirt, all I have to do is just fold my fabric into 2, just widthwise, that's all. Now, let's look at our quarter flared. For our quarter flared radius, I'm sure you can guess what we're going to do because it's a quarter. We're going to take this same fully flared radius we have here and multiply it by 4. That would be 4 inches times 4, and that will give us 16 inches. Now, I would not fold my fabric at all. I will use it as single ply, just like that. And you can see the differences. We're making our fully flared skirt. We have to fold it into 4, and we'll use 4 inches. We're making a semi-flared skirt. We'll fold it into 2 only, and we'll use 8 inches. And of course, for our quarter flared skirt, we would not fold it at all. We'll just use it single ply. So let's go to the table and see how this works out. What I'm going to show you is how we're going to gauge, using the gauging method, how we're going to gauge our radius. Like I told you, it's about trial and error. You're not so sure whether you would come out with the answer the first time you try it. That's why it's gauging. It's called gauging method. So let me use this edge and I'll show you what I mean. Now, because I already know the waist is 25 inches. So because I know the waist, what I would do is I have a quarter of the waist, which is 6 1/4. And now place my finger on where the 6 1/4 is. And all I do is I just take it to the edge of my paper. You can see that I have an edge here, a corner here. So I'm going to just take it and now place it on both sides and just try to see whether I can get it as a perfect arc. I'm not sure, but I'm trying my best to see whether I can come up with something. So what I do is that I now mark on both sides. I mark on both sides and I choose one. Now, I'll just choose one. I'm not sure which one is right, but I'll choose one. Now, if I take a look at this, what I have here is like, I have about, say, this is like close to 3 3/4. Okay, what I have here is actually 3 5/8. So let me use 3 5/8 and check it out how it looks like. And now what I will just do with just being, I'll now take it from this point and just begin to measure out. Let me take it, let me put it this direction. So all I just begin to do is I begin to measure. You can see that this is 3 5/8. So I'm just measuring, I'll just be measuring 3 5/8 as I go. Putting the points there, 3 5/8. I'm still just gauging it. I just took one side. So I'm checking it out. That's 3 5/8. Now you can see that this other side is is longer than 3 5/8 because I'm still gauging. So I'll just connect these dots like this. Now we have connected the dots, so I'll just check this line to see what measurement I have there. So I'll just place it on directly on top of the line like that. I'm just tracing, using my tape rule to trace it like that. Now what I have here is 5 5/8. That's what I have here. It's not even up to 6 1/4 that I really need. Wow. So what do? I try again. I add a little bit more. Maybe let me check this other side, what I have here. What I have here is actually like, I have 3 7/8. Let me use 3 7/8 and see whether I can get what I'm looking for. Like I told you, you see it's gauging. We're still gauging. We're not sure. That's why it's better to use a mathematical method. So You know, 3/7/8 is almost 4 inches. So maybe if I just use that, maybe I might get it. So I just keep on checking it. Three seven eight is just 1/8 less than 4 inches. Okay, I'll now connect those dots again. I'll connect my dots again and now check it one more time. I hope by now we should be able to get at least close to our 6 1/4 that we're looking for. So I'll check that. Wow, what I have here is 6 1/8. At least I'm close to what I'm looking for. You can see how hectic it is to keep on trying out the gauging method. But we're close home. What we have is 6 1/8. So why don't we try out our radius the radii that we have calculated. We've calculated for our fully flared, we've calculated for our semi-flared, and we've also calculated for our quarter flared. Now, I've already given you a tip of the iceberg, so definitely you know how to go about it. So since my radius for my fully flared is 4 inches, all I just have to do from this corner, you must always get your corner. I just begin to measure out 4 inches, like that. Till I get to the other line, which is at the corner, and I connect all my dots. So, just follow me as I do that. So I'll just mark out 4 inches here because we need to cut out our skirts. We're going to be making the fully flared skirt, but I'd like to show you how to cut out all these skirts so that you understand how to cut them out. But the one we're going to be making will be the fully flared skirt. All right, so let's connect the dots. Let's check it out just to be sure whether we're on the right track. So, cool. That's 6 1/4. So we're on the right track. This is for our fully flared. Now let's take another corner. I'm going to mark out the radius for my semi-flared skirt. Now, all I have to do is measure out 8 inches. I mark it out, 8 inches all the way around. Now, if you had a very big compass or a big protractor, that will help you to connect these dots. All you just have to do is put your pen inside the kind you use for technical drawing in secondary school. You just put your pen inside and you now, expand it to the amount of, measurements you need for the radius. And all you just do is that you put your pin in here and just connect it. And you're done in seconds. Okay, so I've done that, so I'll just connect my dots. Now this should give me half of my waist. So that means what I'm looking for is 12.5 inches. So let me check that. Yeah, we're on the right track. Now I want to measure out. Okay, I want to measure out my quarter flared radius. Now that is 16 inches. So what I need to do is just mark out 16 inches here. Same way I did the others, just mark it out 16 inches. 16 inches like that. Let's see whether we can get that. Okay, yes, we should be able to get that out here. Very close to our semi-flared radius. Okay. So we've done we've marked out the points for our quarter flared arc. So I connect all those points like that. This is easier. This is the easier way to connect it. Wow. So you can see that now we have 3 arcs here. This is for semi-flared. Let me put that here. Let me put semi here. Let me put quarter here. And let's put full. I'll just put fully here. So you have that there. So let's cut these out. Now, if you're making a very long skirt, you definitely know that we cannot cut it on this small size table. So the best thing is that we need to go down to the floor so we can have enough space to cut it out. But I'll start by cutting my fully flared on the table first before I go down to the floor to cut my semi-flare and my quarter flare. I need large space to do that. Now we have cut out these arcs. Let's pick our fabric and begin to cut.